Nice to see you. Nice to be with everyone. Whitney, thanks for that great setup. Yeah, we've got quite a good program at Kellogg focused on marketing MBA, and I teach an omni-channel class, which I think is why you were kind enough to invite me today. And so I'm happy to share some of those thoughts as the discussion goes forward this morning. When we teach transformation or pivot from unichannel to multi-channel to omni-channel, we suggest that students, but also brands like marketers, build out a little simple matrix where each row in your matrix is one of your key customer segments, or perhaps you're a job to be done fan and it's different jobs to be done for your business, but those become your rows. And then on the human side of it, you want to look at what are their, we call them service output demands. What do they expect, need, or want in a channel? So we look at things like how important is spatial convenience? How important is delivery and waiting time, assortment and variety, customer service, information sharing, bulk breaking, these kinds of things. And then for each of those target segments or jobs to be done, we do kind of high, medium, and low. If you're a recovering consultant, you might want to do full moon, half moon, three-quarter moon, those kinds of Harvey balls like we all used to do. But then you can start to look at that for each segment and say, well, based on those human needs and expectations of the channel, what's the right fit? So for example, for you're talking about pet food customers, right? So, well, if bulk breaking is a low need for me, spatial convenience is not important, delivery and waiting time is not important, well, then I can go out to Costco and I can buy a 200-pound multi-pack bag of dog food once a month or however infrequently I need that. But you're going to have another group of customers, and Madeline, you hit on that, for example, busy moms or parents, right, who are needing a quick run. Well, in that case, a 5-pound bag, a 7.5-pound bag might be more important for me. And spatial convenience, location, and instant delivery is super important. So much so that I can't even wait for it to come from Chewy or Amazon overnight, in which case we would consider, for example, C-Store as a channel for something like that. So, using that little matrix of, who are my customer groups or jobs to be done, and then what are the expectations, of the channel, then that starts to dictate, or at least indicate, what are the right channels and channel partners, including Amazon, that, you might want to have in there. And just kind of two quick examples. I'm speaking of Amazon. I'm sure you all saw Peloton this morning's big announcement was they're now selling Peloton through Amazon. And, equally a crazy one I saw last week is some of the NFT brands like Solana and Superplastic are now opening stores in malls for NFTs, which you might think is like the most crazy, insane thing. But again, if you use that little matrix, you start to see that understanding, information sharing, explanation, customer service for a group of people who don't really understand what an NFT is, physical store makes a lot of sense as a channel for that. So, I think this is where the belief or the concept of a brand as being multidimensional like humans, I think serves us well when we think about channel decisions. Of course, there's a whole other school of thought that, unique selling proposition, Volvo equals safety, just be one thing, say it over and over and over again. But I think many of us now believe in sort of, curating your message to be the next right message, suggesting the next best right action. As a human, I wouldn't say the same next thing in a business meeting that I would say next to my kids, right? You're using some human intelligence to recognize the context, the audience, the moment, and the environment in order to say the next right best thing. So brands, when you're thinking through this, should I email you or should I text you, right? Or should this be something that you see in your Facebook feed? Ideally, it should be real-time, personalized, and contextual. But in order to do that, that's not something that, can be a one-size-fits-all message, nor is it something that can be, even sort of a, A/B test in a spreadsheet that we manage every Friday. You need some technology in order to do this. And that technology, of course, is a customer data platform. Lots of good examples of brands doing this. Lots of good examples in the convenience store industry. We can talk about Sheetz or Wawa, Come and Go. I'll use Casey stores, also in the Midwest, known for, in addition to selling fuel, selling great pizza. Well, okay, maybe I order my pizzas always on Sunday night for the whole family. Maybe you order yours on Thursday for lunch just for you. Maybe I'm vegan, maybe you're vegetarian or you like meat, etc. Well, so, they work with Salesforce's CDP in order to then ingest individual, again, privacy safe information about each individual in their 2.5 million user a database for their frequent buyer card. And then the system of artificial intelligence generates where to push that message next and what to say. It could someday be the metaverse, but for now, it would be the variety of channels that we would recognize at a brand's disposal. So I think that's kind of a best practice state of the art in trying to address this. Is on the one hand, customers, users, consumers, buyers expect, as your data showed, and we've been discussing today, they expect real-time, personalized, contextual, the right message for me. If I just bought your shoes yesterday, I don't want to continue seeing shoes ads. And if I don't like shoes, I don't want to see shoes ads, right? I mean, so that's the expectation. But the, I don't know, irony of this or dichotomy of this is, but yet at the same time, consumers are increasingly, I think, depending on the group and depending on the country, sensitive to privacy kinds of issues. Yeah. And then the, connector to that obviously is regulation, legislation, California data privacy, GDPR, all those kinds of things. So, that's a little bit of a dilemma, right? As like, I expect better tailored communications, but now, brands have to be much more kind of sensitive to that in how they do it, without being, just even creepy, if not illegal. And then the next issue is now we've got sort of an explosion of data. I can't tell you, and I'm sure, Madeline has seen the same, how many clients I've consulted with that say, I'm drowning in data, but have no insights. I have those silos all over the place. How do I connect it all together? How do I action it? How do I use it? Big sort of grocery store here in the Chicago area called Jewel, and we don't want to throw them under the bus if there's anybody on the call from here, but I mean, I've shopped with my frequent shopper card there for like 50 years, and I've never gotten one single customized, tailored anything from them. Just imagine, the petabytes of data that they must have on this. So, I think that's what's changed. And then the last piece I think that's changed, I'll just maybe echo my earlier point that, there now are some emergent technologies and, people with skill sets to employ them on how to start to stitch the data, get data together from disparate places, everything from your call center data, your ERP data, your marketing campaign data, et cetera, in order to bring this together into a usable system. But I agree with Tracy, right? It's here and brands are doing it, but it is not easy. Right, that sort of right message, right time, right place, right person. I mean, it's not a new concept. Peppers and Rogers, right, talked about this in the middle 80s for some of us who were around and remember that in those days. But, at that point, the extent of the data was really sort of like, your mileage plus loyalty program, right? And not all brands had loyalty programs or had that data and were not able to do it at that point. So, I think the advice is that, zero-party data and first-party data becomes increasingly important, non-optional, and imperative. I mean, a lot of brands breathed a sigh of relief that they got a so-called stay of execution when Google moved the cookie apocalypse back by yet another year. But that doesn't mean that you're relieved of, the challenge of moving from third-party data back into second, first, or zero-party data. And so I think that really is imperative because now, to the extent that I have deterministic data and not just probabilistic data or third-party data, I can now, with a much higher degree of fidelity, understand where you're at on that customer journey as an individual, and then deliver that right, best real-time contextual personalized experience for you, because you've just told me something about yourself. And what we teach is that, if you want to be truly omni-channel, there's sort of 5 routes to market or points of presence that you have to consider. So the first 4 are kind of a 2x2, right? First party channels, pipes, places that you own, both online and offline. So your bricks and mortar or your pop-up or your food truck or, right, your showroom, as well as your site. And Madeline even talked about like more brands moving to sell DTC, right? That's opening up that channel. And then the other two are third parties. So like through pet food stores, right? Or veterinarians, physical locations and their .coms or their websites. So now I've got sort of online, offline, my stuff, somebody else's stuff. And then the fifth one that we haven't really talked a whole lot about is, you know, brands experimenting with Facebook shopping, Pinterest shopping, you know, Twitter has shopping storefronts now these days, Taobao live streaming, Whitney was talking about live stream mobile shopping. These are not things that are gonna make or break your numbers today, this week, this month, this quarter, or maybe not this year, but you should be experimenting with those. So yeah, very much so, Maury. I think like keeping in mind all 5 of those routes to market, and you know, we just sort of lay those out and put like a red, yellow, or green dot on those 5 and say, have we figured that out? Is that working? Is that important to us? Is it in progress? Yellow, we're trying it, we're trying to optimize it. Or red, we haven't even thought about this or done anything yet, or we have and we can't make it work. So those 5 routes, I think, are critical to a brand's omnichannel aspirations. Ideas, examples, and inspiration from outside your category. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in where people say, hey, you know, I'm in healthcare, I'm in B2B, so unless you show me a healthcare best practice or a B2B best practice, I don't want to hear it. Well, you know, consumers don't think that way, right? Like this morning I was dealing with Nike, this afternoon I'm dealing with a SaaS software, and my expectations for like what a good customer experience is transfer across categories. So, you know, yes, there are regulations, practical, you know, realities within your category, no matter what category you're in, but look outside your category for some inspiration and examples and try to apply some of those things.